Welcome to Brew Crime, the podcast where we drink brews, talk crime, conspiracies, or whatever catches our attention. This is Fast Talking Mike and my co-host,
Jingle Janglin' JT.
Perfect.
You know, I don't think I didn't tell you on the last episode, right before he died, I had a chance to sit in the third row and watch Bo Diddley.
No way.
Yep. And for about a quarter of the concert, he played his cigar box guitar.
That's awesome.
Also, extremely misogynistic, but
it's the time.
But yeah, got really lucky to see him play. And although he was, not all there, still to be able to watch a legend play like that was amazing.
No, that would be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, totally different, but like my wife was able to go see, what am I going blank here for? Holy shit. Why did I just go totally blank? Rocket Man. Damn it.
Elton John.
My wife was able to see Elton John and his final tour before he comes back and has another final tour, but she was able to go see him.
Yeah.
And that's one of those. It was just way too expensive for me to want to bother, but that would be a legend to see.
Yeah, I've seen him. That was amazing. Same tour. It was just COVID that stretched that tour out.
Yep.
The other group that I could say that I've seen right before one of them died was Peter, Paul, and Mary.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And, Puff the Magic Dragon.
Yeah.
Any band from Woodstock protest era is awesome.
I saw Pantera before.
We went from Woodstock to Woodstock 99, and that is a whole different experience.
Yes, and now both of the brothers are dead, so
yeah. But we're here to talk about blues.
Yes, we are.
So the beer that I picked, I've probably done this one before, but it's a vanilla porter. What?
I said, who knows?
Who knows? It's a vanilla porter, and it's from Breckenridge Brewery over in Colorado, and it's, they call it complex, they call it roasty, chocolatey, malty. They're right on all accounts. Nice. So it has a huh?
I said, nice.
Oh, yeah. It has a chocolate and roasted nut flavor of kind of like a porter. But the difference here is that it has real vanilla bean in it. And so that really adds a whole other level to it. It's about medium bodied if you want to put it into that case. But yeah, overall, really, really good. I really like it so much so that, guess what? I finished it before this episode. So
what can you do, right?
What can you do? So what I'm doing tonight was I saw 2 to 5 different individuals that I might be able to cover, but I thought I might go a different route. And so I decided to talk about blues kind of in general and reactions to the blues. And on the last episode, we talked a lot about racism and all of these hurdles that people are still jumping today. So today, I'm going to talk about the blues, history, racism, and policing. So when I think of music, there's this feeling I get. When I think of different genres of music, while there are some that do hit me in the right spots, if you look at the overall meaning and background of the genre, there is one that just seems to have deeper significance. Not only musically, but culturally as well. And that's the blues. There's something that has lasted throughout the history of the blues, and it's not the riffs and it's not the lyrics. If you know anything about the United States, you won't be surprised to find out that it's policing and racism.
You don't say. Isn't that the same thing? I mean, all you have to go back is listen to Robert Evans' Behind the Police to just find out how racist the beginning of the police were in the United States, right?
Yes, Sting was an asshole.
Slavery is done. Uh-oh, what do we do with all these people we used to, hold under our thumb?
Right.
Let's make police.
So we're going to talk a bit about the history of the blues genre and its connection to the experiences of African Americans, racism, policing from its roots. in the African diaspora to its evolution into the powerful form of self-expression. The blues has not only captured the essence of struggles, but it has also served as a medium through which African Americans could articulate their grievances, including those related to racism and policing. So we're going to talk a little more meta-ish, but it's going to include historic development. What?
Facebook?
No.
I thought you said meta.
Less Zucker and more okay, so but it's
Fucker, what?
It's going to include historical development of the blues, its intersection with racism, policing practice, and that's going to kind of help illustrate the genre's role as a voice of protest and resilience. Okay. So blues is a musical genre that emerged from the African American experience, and it has played a significant role in reflecting and addressing serious issues. But to fully appreciate the history of the blues in this context, we have to understand more of its origins. The first appearance of the blues is usually dated after the Emancipation Act of 1863. Between the 1860s and 1890s, that's a period that parallels post-emancipation and later. This introduction and birth of the blues also coincided with the creation of what were called juke joints, which was a location where African Americans went to listen to music, dance, or gamble after working all day.
That's where that comes from. Totally different. But have you ever heard of the band KMFDM?
No. They're
a American/German industrial band, and they have a really good song called Juke Joint Jezebel.
That's it.
I had no idea that's what it was.
That's fascinating that a German sing. Okay, well, we're going to go with it.
Well, a lot of the members of the band are actually American, so.
Well, now it makes sense. Okay, so.
Yeah.
So the major development of the blues was in the early 1900s as a move from group to individual performance. And, the main argument is that the development of the blues is associated with the newly acquired freedom of African Americans in the deep south of the United States, particularly in the Mississippi Delta region. The blues emerged as a response to the harsh realities of life during the era of slavery and the Jim Crow segregation laws. It was born out of the fusion of African musical traditions with influences from work songs and spirituals, and it's been used as a form of communication, resistance, solace through field hollers, work songs, spirituals, with elements of European musical forms. And those early musical expressions provided the foundation upon which blues would later be built.
Damn.
The blues is characterized by its soulful and emotive expression of sorrow, struggle, and resilience. The use of simple but powerful lyrics, repetitive musical structures, and the distinctive 12-bar blues chord progression became hallmarks of this genre. Early blues musicians. Let me pull a bar chord out of my hat. They were often itinerant. They were self-taught. They played their music on homemade instruments like the guitar, harmonica, banjo. They sang about the hardships they faced in everyday lives. Notable figures such as W.C. Handy, known as the father of the blues, and Ma Rainey, the mother of the blues, played pivotal roles in popularizing the genre and bringing it to a wider audience. So, the Great Migration, which saw millions of African Americans move from rural South to urban centers in the North, contributed to the evolution of the blues. In cities like Chicago and Detroit, the urban blues took on a more electrified and contemporary form. Artists like Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf brought their experiences of racism, discrimination, and police harassment to the forefront of their music. Over time, the blues evolved into different styles, including Delta blues, Chicago blues, and electric blues, leaving an indelible mark on the history of American music. And blues served as the foundation for various other musical genres, such as jazz, rock, and soul. Without blues, we don't have any of that other stuff, or the subgenres of it. It just...
Well, I mean, shit, Elvis Presley, I mean, well known for...
blue.
Exactly. He took that blues sound and, quote unquote, black sound, as they would say, right? And made it his own and became fucking massive.
Yeah, oh, yeah. The blues not only encapsulated the pain and suffering of its creators, but also served as a potent medium for expressing the deep-seated frustration and resistance against racial discrimination and inequality. As the blues gained popularity in the early 20th century, it became a platform for African Americans to voice their frustrations. Lyrics began to directly address issues of racism, segregation, police brutality. Artists like Bessie Smith and Leadbelly sang about the injustices they witnessed and experienced, bringing attention to the problems plaguing their communities.
I think Leadbelly even had a song called Mr. Hitler. So yeah.
That's about around the right time.
I haven't listened to the song yet, but he had a draft card for World War II, right? So
it goes like this: Mr. Hitler, bring me some swastikas. Da, 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 da. Okay.
I don't think so.
Oh, that's going to be isolated and used against
stuff.
me.
In the court of podcasting.
And I just said I wanted to run for school board. Not anymore. Although maybe I'll win. Maybe I'll win now. Maybe I'll win. That doesn't tell you about the population. At its core, the blues is an art form that channels profound emotions and experiences. It often features themes of heartache, loss, poverty, and discrimination, making it a natural platform for protest. The blues became a cathartic release, and that allowed African Americans to voice those struggles. For some reason, getting up on a stage and playing music with that message was different than standing in front of a courthouse and protesting.
Yeah.
But they were able to do it. And Robert Johnson, again, Leadbelly, Son House, that music was a form of resistance against Jim Crow, racial violence, challenges of poverty. It provided a means to protest without explicitly challenging the status quo, as we just talked about. The subtle subversion allowed the blues to circulate widely, even in a time where overt dissent could lead to severe consequences. As the blues evolved, it began to serve as a catalyst for change in a more overt form of protest. One pivotal figure in this transformation was Muddy Waters, who was a Delta blues musician who electrified his sound and moved to Chicago. The transition to electric blues not only marked a change in musical style, but also symbolized a shift towards more assertive forms of protest. The electrified blues of artists like Waters and Howlin' Wolf had a raw, electrifying power that resonated with a new generation of African Americans. So, the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s marked a pivotal moment in the intersection of the blues, racism, and policing. Artists like Nina Simone and Billie Holiday incorporated the struggle for civil rights and justice into their music, amplifying the movement's message and providing a voice for those who were oppressed by systemic racism and police violence. And as the civil rights movement gained momentum, the blues played an integral role. Billie Holiday...
Absolutely it did, yeah.
What?
Absolutely it did, yeah.
Yeah. So Billie Holiday mentioned before her haunting rendition of Strange Fruit, which vividly described the horrors of lynching, remains an iconic protest song that exposed the brutality of racism to a broader audience. And it didn't stop. The enduring relevance of the blues in addressing contemporary social and political issues lies in its ability to express the universal themes of struggle, resilience, and hope. Modern blues artists such as Gary Clark Jr., Shamikia Copeland, and Keb Mo have embraced the blues as a form of protest music. They craft songs that confront the social and political issues of our time, raising awareness and encouraging dialogue. Gary Clark Jr.'s This Land directly addresses racial tension and his personal experiences with discrimination, while Shamikia Copeland's Ain't Got Time for Hate promotes unity and peace in the face of division. These contemporary blues songs capture the spirit of protest while connecting with a diverse and engaged audience. The Black Lives Matter movement and ongoing debates about policing have further underscored the blues' continued relevance in addressing these issues.
Mm-hmm.
And those contemporary blues artists draw from the rich history of the genre to create music that resonates with the challenges and injustices faced by marginalized communities today. And they use blues as a medium to highlight issues, and they keep alive the tradition of protest within that genre. So, the blues, a quintessential genre of African American music, has long reflected the complex relationship between African Americans and the institutions of power in the United States, including law enforcement. There is a connection between the blues and policing in the context of African American history, as the music has been a vehicle for documenting and protesting the often fraught interactions between law enforcement. So many blues songs, from Police Department Blues by Blind Lemon Jefferson to Policeman Blues by Henry Thomas, illustrate encounters with the police that reflect racial tensions and abuses of power. These songs provide a vivid historical record of the African American community's struggles with law enforcement, shining a light on the often unjust treatment they received. The narrative of these blues songs typically portrays interactions between African Americans and the police as fraught with fear and apprehension. Lyrics describe harassment, intimidation, violence, depicting the police as agents of an oppressive system. And these songs not only expose the problems with law enforcement, but also served as a form of protest and social commentary, highlighting the need for reform and justice. One of the ways that policing was, enacted on the blues genre was through bar raids. Now, this isn't a surprise to anybody. Police raided gay bars, blues bars,
yeah, they sure
black
did.
bars, anything like that, right? Anything that's different.
Left-wing bars. Yeah.
Right? Exactly. So I have 3 raids here that I want to go through that seem to be kind of like the top ones that were reported on. First one's the 10th Precinct raid. So one of the most notable real stories of police raids in blues bars occurred at the famous 10th Precinct Blues Club in New York City. This event became a symbol of the tensions between law enforcement and the African American community during the 1950s, which was a period when the civil rights movement was gaining momentum. The 10th Precinct, also known as the Onyx Club, which is a really fucking cool name, was located in the heart of Harlem, a vibrant neighborhood that was the focal point of African American culture in the jazz and blues scene. On December 17th, 1956, a police raid was conducted at the 10th Precinct, and it resulted in a significant outcry and served as a catalyst for the civil rights movement. So during the raid, police officers entered the club and arrested several patrons, including musicians and clubgoers, on various charges, often related to alleged drug possession. The raid was not unique. Many jazz and blues clubs, particularly those, again, in African American neighborhoods, were subject to frequent police harassment, with allegations of excessive force and racial profiling. The 10th Precinct raid, however, stood out because it galvanized the community. Protests and demonstrations erupted in Harlem and across the city in response to the incident. Musicians, including Count Basie, Miles Davis, and Billie Holiday, used their platforms to speak out against the unjust treatment of the club's patrons. Billie Holiday, in particular, made an emotional plea for justice during a benefit concert at Carnegie Hall following the raid. That's where she performed the song Strange Fruit that I mentioned earlier that talks about racial violence and lynching.
Yeah.
The 10th Precinct raid and subsequent protests were significant because they drew national attention to the issue of police harassment and racial profiling in African American communities. And they emphasized, again, the need for reform and justice in the U.S. The second raid was the Stony Island Blues Club raid. This is another significant real story in blues bars. Raids in blues bars took place at Stony Island Blues Club in Chicago during the 1960s. The Stony Island area was renowned for its vibrant blues scene, and the club was a hub for blues musicians and enthusiasts. In the mid-1960s, Chicago was experiencing a surge in both the civil rights movement and the blues revival. The Stony Island Blues Club played a pivotal role in this cultural and social landscape. However, it also became a site of tension between the African American community and local law enforcement. On the night of June 10th, 1966, my father was 6 years old, a police raid was conducted at the Stony Island Blues Club. The raid was initiated under the pretense of checking liquor licenses in compliance with city regulations.
I just want to find out what your dad was doing at that bar.
Right? Tell me about
6 years old? Jesus.
How did he get to Chicago all the way from Ohio?
I know,
what
right?
I want to know. So I just see my dad like grabbing a taxi and being like, Chicago,
please.
I gotta go to the blues bar.
When you brought up your dad, I had to bring that.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. It soon became apparent, despite the pretense of checking liquor licenses and compliance, this is the same thing as a policeman coming up to your car going, I smell something.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it soon became apparent that the police presence was excessive and confrontational. As police entered the club, tensions escalated, leading to a standoff between the officers and patrons. The incident quickly attracted a crowd outside the club, with people from the neighborhood joining to observe and protest the police action. Blues musicians, including Buddy Guy and Junior Wells, were performing at the club that evening and were detained during the raid. The presence of these celebrated artists brought attention to the situation and drew a wider audience, including journalists. The police raid and its subsequent fallout became a symbol of resistance against police harassment and racial profiling. Protests erupted in the Stony Island neighborhood and throughout Chicago. Civil rights activists, as well as blues musicians and their fans, demanded an end to such discriminatory, I said it right the first time. I don't know why I went back.
You did.
Practices by the police. So again, this was another raid that contributed to the civil rights struggle, again underscoring the need for reform. Blues musicians were inspired by this experience, used their music to platform these issues. And the final raid is the Club Alabama raid. In the heart of Central Avenue was the famous Dunbar Hotel, which featured the Club Alabama, a renowned blues and jazz venue that attracted top-tier musicians, including T-Bone Walker and Dinah Washington. During
I
this
like me a
era,
T-Bone.
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 So during this era, the police often conducted raids on Central Avenue blues clubs and jazz bars, claiming that they were cracking down on illegal gambling and drug activity. There's a theme here.
It sure is.
These raids were often used as pretexts to disrupt and intimidate the predominantly African-American patrons and musicians who frequented these establishments. In 1947, Club Alabama was raided. The police swept into the club, interrupting a performance by T-Bone Walker. The raid was chaotic, with officers arresting patrons and confiscating alcohol. Such raids created a tense and hostile atmosphere, leaving musicians and clubgoers feeling targeted and oppressed. The incident was met with public outrage. African-American community leaders, civil rights activists, musicians again came together to protest the unjust treatment and racial profiling carried out by the police. They organized rallies, spoke out against the raids, and demanded an end to this discrimination against African Americans. And, overall, the Central Avenue Blues Club raids became a catalyst for change. They galvanized the African American community to challenge systemic racism, police brutality, and the abuse of power.
You fuck with people enough, and they're going to fuck with you back, right?
Oh,
100%.
100%. Absolutely. So,
and fight the fucking power.
On top of that, I wanted to add just some songs and some lyrics, so that I can give you a sense of kind of what this was. So the first one's Walking the Back Streets and Crying by Albert King. And this was a 1967 song, and it's soulful blues. It touches on the theme of racial profiling. The lyrics express feeling of being constantly harassed by the police, a common experience for many African Americans during the civil rights era, also now.
Yes.
So, for instance...
also future.
Right. So the lyrics, I'm walking the back streets and I'm crying from being mistreated. I can choose to do no wrong, but no matter what I do, folks, the police always say I'm wrong.
Unfortunately. And I mean, in Canada, it's more swung to Indigenous people, but it's still there.
Oh, yeah. This song was put together in the 1960s, and it's by Nina Simone, and this title is one of my favorite titles ever, and I will not apologize to Paige first off. But it's called Mississippi Goddamn. But again, talks about racial violence, systemic racism, and it criticizes racial profiling, police brutality. So example lyrics, hound dogs on my trail, school children sitting in jail, black cat crossed my path, I think every day is going to be my last. You got the Police Dog Blues by Blind Blake, and it's an older blues song and directly references the tension between African Americans and police. Example lyrics, if a bulldog misses you, thank that great day.
Yep.
But blues overall has branched out as well, right? It started in the civil rights movement, and although it's not a traditional blues song, We Shall Overcome became an anthem of civil rights movement. Blues artists like Muddy Waters and B.B. King performed that song at civil rights rallies, contributing to that movement's momentum. So it became kind of this blues call for protest. And it extended. Anti-Vietnam War protests. Pete Seeger, we said that he was friends with, Lead Belly, right?
Lead Belly, yep.
He wrote a song called Waist Deep in the Big Muddy. And again, it's not necessarily a blues song, but it's folk blues-ish.
Folk blues. They kind of blended together, it seemed like. Like Lead Belly was both a folk and a blues musician, right?
Right. I think Lead Belly would have been proud of this song. It touches on the anti-war sentiment of the 1960s and the resistance against the Vietnam War. And
they were buddies, so I'm sure he would have been, yeah.
Yeah. John Lee Hooker, who's a blues musician, covered this song during the era. What?
I love that name.
So apartheid protests were influenced by the blues as well. Biko by Peter Gabriel was inspired by the anti-apartheid activism of Steve Biko. Biko? Yep.
Yep.
It brought attention to the struggles in South Africa, and the blues influence in the music reflects the universality of the struggle for justice. Memphis Slim wrote Mother Earth, which was a focus of environmental protests. Blues artists have often addressed environmental concerns and the human impact on the planet. That song carries an environmental message, has been performed in the context of those protests. Taj Mahal, an artist, wrote Don't Shoot, which was an anti-police brutality protest. In response to the incidents of police brutality in the Black Lives Matter movement, blues musician Taj Mahal released the song Don't Shoot in 2016, addressing the issue of excessive force by law enforcement. The next one focuses on labor protests. It's by Leadbelly, and it's called The Bourgeoisie.
Bourgeoisie Blues?
The Bougie Blues.
Bourgeoisie.
Bourgeoisie. So the last thing is a song by Corey Harris. Actually, I'd be interested to hear this. And it's called See That My Grave Is Kept Clean. Corey Harris, who's a contemporary blues artist, has used his music to address social issues. Now, this is his rendition of Blind Lemon Jefferson's See That My Grave Is Kept Clean.
What song again, sorry?
See That My Grave Is Kept Clean. And it captures the essence of protest and remembrance.
In communist philosophy, the bourgeoisie is the social class that came to own the means of production during modern industrialization.
Yes. Yeah. Overall, the genre's emotional depth, storytelling capacity, and cultural resonance have made it a powerful means of conveying messages of social justice, change, and resistance. Blues artists continue to draw on this legacy and engage in contemporary activism and to bring attention to pressing social issues. Overall, the history of blues is inseparable from the history of racism and policing in the United States. From its roots in African-American traditions to its contemporary expressions, the blues has served as a powerful medium for addressing systemic racism and police violence. It's provided a voice to those who have been marginalized and oppressed, and its legacy endures as an important cultural force in the ongoing fight for justice, racial justice.
Yeah.
And I quote Etta James, who said, "When I'm singing the blues, I'm singing life."
Absolutely. And I mean, you know what? Bands like Rage Against the Machine, while obviously not blues, have picked up that mantle of fighting the fucking power.
Yeah.
Same with Anti-Flag, a punk band.
Yeah.
Hardcore,
for sure.
like both of those bands, like hardcore leftist ideals, fighting against racism, fight the machine that is what Western civilization is,
Right.
basically.
and what's amazing is, and it's not that it wasn't noisy back then, but we are surrounded by noise now today.
Yes. Yeah,
and
yeah.
Rage and Anti-Flag and all of those kind of bands they cut through it. They
They sure did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're amazing bands.
That's the blues as protest and policing and raids and fun.
Well done, JT.
Thanks.
Well, thanks for tuning in to Brew Crime. You can find us on all social media platforms at Brew Crime. We have a Facebook group at Brew Crime the Group. If you'd like to support the show, head to patreon.com/brewcrime now. Money goes towards upgrading equipment and making the show that much better. You get one bonus episode a month, as well as ad-free access to our episodes. So shout out to our Patreon supporters. True Crime Nana, 3 Biz In Podcast, and the faves of our lives. Peace.
Since my baby left me.
Ba-da-da-da.
Goodbye.
All cases in Brew Crime are written by Mike and JT or a writer we credit on the episode, and sources are put into our show notes for each episode. We always want to give credit to the people that research the cases we talk about. Check out our store at tpublic.com/stores/brew-crime-podcast, where you can purchase gear like t-shirts, phone cases, stickers, pillows, and all kinds of other cool stuff. Brew Crime's intro was created by Mike using Creative Commons Attribution licensed audio from purple-planet.com, soundbible.com, and freesoundeffects.com. Logo designed by Ben Greenberg. Thanks for listening to this episode of Brew Crime Podcast.